Hello, how are you today? I hope you're having a good day. Grandma wants to read you an excerpt from a book called Letters for Emily. And this is a story written by Cameron Wright. And has written a series of letters for his granddaughter in hopes that they will be something that she can learn as she grows up. She's only 7 years old at the time, but he's hoping that as she gets older, some of these stories and letters that he tells to her will be of benefit. And that is the same purpose that Grandma has been recording these stories for you guys, that you will enjoy them now and that they will also be useful to you throughout your life. And so this is a story from Letters for Emily. Dearest Emily, always do your best. That is all that can be asked. If at the end of each day you can look at yourself in the mirror and know that you have done all that you could do, you will live a satisfied life. I don't mean to digress again into fables, dear granddaughter, but a story related to me as a boy will serve to make a point. There once lived a king with 3 sons in a faraway kingdom. He began to grow old and needed to pass on the rule of his kingdom, but he couldn't decide which of his 3 sons should be the next king. To solve his dilemma, he devised a contest which would test the strength and wisdom of each. On the appointed day, he gathered his sons together. These are the words that he spoke. Located in the distant northernmost corner of the kingdom, there stands a great mountain. It is the tallest and grandest mountain in the kingdom. Its peak stretches to the tops of the very clouds. I know this because as a youth, I stood on that peak. I can tell you that at the very highest point grow some of the oldest, tallest, and strongest pine trees in the entire world. They are magnificent. To test your strength, fitness, and ability to rule, I will send each of you, one at a time, on a journey to the very highest peak of the mountain. I want you to each bring back a branch from the tallest, grandest tree on the peak. The one who brings back the greatest branch shall rule my kingdom. And so it happened. The oldest son, sent first, headed toward the mountain with his supplies, while the king and his other sons waited. A week passed, and then 2. Then, at the end of the 3rd week, the young man returned to the kingdom. He had made a great effort and carried with him a huge branch. The king seemed pleased and congratulated him on a work well done. Next, it was the second son's turn. He vowed to bring even a finer branch and departed with his tents and supplies toward the mountain. A week passed, then 2, then 3, while the king waited for his return. 4 weeks, 5, and then finally, at the end of the 6th week of his journey, the second son returned. As he approached, those watching could see he carried an enormous branch, much larger than the first. He had made a valiant effort indeed, and the king seemed ecstatic. Then, turning to his last son, he spoke. Now it is your turn. See if you can return with a branch even larger than those of your brothers. The youngest boy's apprehension was apparent. Surely, as he was the smallest of the 3 brothers, he could do no better. He pleaded with his father to award the kingdom to his older brother, but the king insisted he at least try. The boy relented, and gathering up his supplies, he headed toward the mountain. 2 weeks passed, and then 4 and 6, with no word from the boy. 8, 10, and then 12 weeks came and went. Finally, at the end of the 14th week, word arrived that the boy had been spotted on his return to the kingdom. In anticipation, the king commanded the entire kingdom to gather and await his son's return. For on his return, he would decide who would be the future king. As the boy approached, his head was bowed with his eyes cast to the ground. He was dirty and ragged. As he neared his father, it became obvious to all that he had not even tried, for he carried no branch. Raising his eyes to meet the king's gaze, he whispered, "I have failed you, father. My brother should be anointed king. He deserves the kingdom." As the king spoke, a hush blanketed the crowd. "Son, you didn't even try. You brought back no branch at all." Tears of failure welled up in the boy's eyes as he spoke. "I'm sorry, father. I didn't mean to fail you. I tried to do as you asked. I journeyed for weeks to the northernmost tip of the kingdom, and indeed I did find a grand mountain. I climbed it as you asked, day after day, until I finally reached its very top peak, the one you spoke of visiting as a youth. I searched and searched, just as you asked, but father, there aren't any trees on the top." Tears welled up now in the king's eyes as he spoke softly to his youngest son. "You are right, my boy. There are no trees on top of that great peak. Now everything in the kingdom is yours. Emily, always try your best. Be honest, make your best effort. If you do, you will be richly rewarded in the end. I am thinking of you. Love, Grandpa Harry," or in this case, Grandma Cindy. "I love you. I hope you will always try your best." That's all we can do. That's all anyone can ask. I hope you have a wonderful day. Remember, Grandma loves you.